Hi, Terry VanNoy. Welcome to Math Class with Terry V. Hope this video helps you out, and if you enjoy it, please share it, comment, or like it. And you can also go to my website, MathPowerLine.com. It's a math resource blog, lesson videos for students, and other resources for parents and teachers. Give me a call or go to my website or email. All right, let's go to today's lesson. All right, I have here an equation k equals 3 times j minus 3m in parentheses plus 2m. Now the goal is to rewrite this in terms of m. Okay, now on the left I have some expressions that sometimes are used, and this is how you recognize a literal equations situation. Maybe it says solve for m. Instead of k equals, we want m equals. Maybe it says rewrite in terms of m. Or in some cases, like the UK or England, make m the subject. All right, now notice first of all that the first step is to kind of analyze what we've got here. If I have an m in two different places, the idea is how can I get those m's out there and by themselves, usually on the left side. Well, this m is part of negative 3m, and it's inside parentheses that's being multiplied. All right, the goal again is to go in reverse order in inverse operations so you can undo everything and get m by itself. Now what happens if I have two m's out here? All right, well the first little tip here is that if you have parentheses and it's a distributive property situation, go ahead and multiply it out. Okay, get rid of the parentheses. So k equals 3j, 3 times j of course, and 3 times 3m, but it's a negative sign there, so it gives you 9m, and then we still have plus 2m. Alright, another tip is combine like terms if you can. Looks like I can combine those m terms together, so now I have k equals 3j minus 7m. Okay, obviously be careful with your signs there. Alright, now I have a 7m, and that's the only m term in here. So I'm going to go ahead and you have a couple of choices, but I'm going to go ahead and add 7m to each side. That way it sort of ends up on the left. And then I have, can you add k and 7m together? No, those are unlike terms. So I'm going to go ahead and write 7m plus k, just put them in the same row, part of the same group, equals 3j. Alright, then I'm going to subtract k from each side. So again, we're just remembering all those little elementary steps of algebra. What you do on one side, you have to do the other, and you do opposite operations to get rid of something. So 7m equals 3j minus k. And then let me just copy this up here. The final step is to get rid of the 7. So how do you do that? Well, what is the 7 doing there? It's being multiplied, right? So we're going to divide each side by 7. And remember, of course, that means the 7 goes into both parts over here. So finally, for this example, I get m equals 3j minus k divided by 7. Now students are sort of irritated about this kind of math because you don't get an answer. All you do is you just come up with a different equation. But the goal, remember, was to isolate the m. So you're going to write this equation instead of k equals, we're going to write it in terms of m. And in science especially, and some levels of math, it's important to be able to manipulate an equation and write it a different way. Sometimes it's easier to solve for m this way than it is to substitute everything else in the original equation. Alright, I have one more example for you to try. So here's the next example. A equals 5b minus 2c times the quantity 3 plus b plus c. Okay, now it's a fairly complicated equation. We have some distributive property things to deal with. And the question is, how do you solve that for b, or make b the subject? Okay, this is in a literal equation, of course. Well, again, the first step is to kind of analyze what's going on. Well, b is being multiplied by a 5, and it's also inside this parentheses group. Now in the previous example I said when you see parentheses you need to multiply it out. And then later we have to combine terms together if possible. So the very first step is to go ahead and multiply using the distributive property. So A equals 5B, ignore that line there, 2C times 3 is minus 6C, and 2C times B is negative 2BC. We'll put the variables in alphabetical order there, plus C. Okay, now I have a 5B term there and a BC term there. Those are unlike. Okay, those are unlike terms. But let's go ahead and put them over on the left side. Okay, so I'm going to subtract 5B here and subtract 5B here. Okay, it's going to be a mess, but I'll organize it here in just a second. Now if this is a negative 2BC, let's go ahead and add 2BC on the left. Okay, so we have negative 5B plus 2BC, don't forget the plus A there on the left, equals negative 6C plus C. Okay, well the good news is that we can combine those and write that as negative 5C. Okay, so here's what we've got. Negative 5B plus 2BC plus A equals negative 5C. So I'm going to go ahead and rewrite this, what we've got here. And notice the only thing on the left side that does not have a B variable in it is this A here. So let's go ahead and get rid of that by subtracting it on both sides. Alright, so hopefully we can kind of in an organized way see what we've got. Negative 5B plus 2BC equals negative 5C negative A. Alright, now here's the key here. If both of these terms have a B in it, remember we're trying to solve for B or make B the subject. Now we're going to use factoring to pull that B out. Okay, so when I factor a B out, that leaves me with negative 5 plus 2C. And check by distributive property. B times negative 5, B times 2C. Alright, that'll work. And one of my last steps is going to be to get rid of this binomial that's being multiplied by B. So again, that's a multiplication there. How do you get rid of something that's being multiplied? You divide it. So I want to make sure I do that on both sides. Now I'm going to go ahead and leave these parentheses in here for just a second. But the answer is actually going to be negative 5C, negative A, all over negative 5 plus 2C. That looks like a big mess. Now I'm going to just kind of move this up here and show you a couple things here. This actually could be an okay answer, but there's some form issues. There's some ways that we should think about writing this answer a little differently that makes it look better and sort of follows some other rules. Depending on what your textbook or your teacher, how that person wants you to write it. Alright, the idea is that I have two negative terms on the top and a single negative term on the bottom, and the basic rule is that if there's a way to get rid of as many negative sides as possible to kind of clean it up a little bit, that would be a really good idea. And the way you get rid of negative signs is you factor negative ones out of something. Okay? Just a little tip there. So if we're going to factor out a negative 1 out of the top and bottom, that means we're going to change the signs. This will be a positive 5C and that'll be a positive A. Okay, when I multiply that negative 1 on the outside twice, that would give me my original binomial up there. What about this? Well, if I factor out a negative 1 on the bottom, that would leave me with a positive 5 and a negative 2C. Okay, what's the point of factoring out the -1? Well, now they can cancel out. Okay, so we've made it a little simpler anyway. Some people would disagree, but basically, if we just sort of clean it up a little bit, a better version of my answer would be B equals 5C plus A over 5 minus 2C. All right, so a little bit better. Now that's a literal equation, solving for B, making B the subject. All right, got to be really good with your algebra rules and your inverse operations, and it's a very good skill to have, especially in science. All right, thanks for watching. All right, there you have it. I invite you to go to my website now, MathPowerLine.com, or email me or give me a call. The way I work best with students is live online in my classroom. So if I can help you in any way, answer some specific questions, the first lesson with me is free as I show you how everything works. All right, study hard and take care.